Welcome back to another episode of the Speakers, Authors, and Coaches podcast. My guest today is the side hustle millionaire and the founder of 365 Driven. Tony, what's going on?
What's going on, Jake? Thank you for inviting me on your show, and I can't wait to deliver some fire to your audience, man. You've got an incredible group. You're doing some amazing things.
Well, thank you very much. I should say Tony Whatley. I just said Tony because Tony and I have become pretty close friends over the last almost 2 years now. And I've been so impressed with all the things that you've been doing, all the drive that you have, the consistency in putting it out, which makes sense considering your brand is 365 driven. What does that mean to be 365 driven?
Well, I think the main word in that thing is driven. There's a lot of people out there who look for motivation. Like I could have called it 365 motivated, but let's be honest. The difference between people who aspire to be average and the people who just really have achieved success is that they're driven every single day, regardless of motivation. We tend to do things even when we don't feel like it. I go to the gym 6 days a week. I'll tell you half the times I don't feel like it. I went to the gym this morning, didn't really feel like it, but I knew that I needed to get those results. And for people who are driven to do things successful, we just don't care about the motivation. Motivation is temporary. So we got to have this internal drive. And 365 is honestly the calendar. So 365 driven. It's an easy mantra. I like people to be able to say, hey, I am 365 driven. So I'm a very big community builder, and I like to have some kind of a mantra or some kind of a brand name that people would wear that means something to them. If I would have just named my business Tony Whatley, I don't think they'd be wearing that on their shirts or their hats. It'd be kind of weird.
Yeah, that's probably true. Where do you think that drive comes from? I have a lot of people who say like, how do I find that drive, or how do I get that? And sometimes I'm not really sure what the answer is. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think I'm very fortunate to have very disciplinarian childhood as my parents. My dad was a U.S. Marine gunnery sergeant, so I basically lived in a Marine boot camp most of my life as a child. My mom, she's a Japanese immigrant, and she valued education because her generation as a woman in Japan, they basically plucked the girls out of junior high to go work in the farms instead of going on to high school. The boys only got to go to high school at her age. And so she always valued education. And when she moved here, they made some sacrifices. My parents did not have money. My mom worked in the public school system as a cafeteria lady. My dad got out of the military and worked in the chemical plants as a pipe fitter and a welder. And they moved to a town we could barely afford to live in because they had a better public school system. So that was Friendswood, Texas. It's a suburb of Houston. So they sacrificed to make sure that my sister and I had a good education, but we had the discipline from them. Like, to give your listeners an idea, my mom, she was so adamant about me going to school and never missing that I did not miss a single day of school from kindergarten through graduation, even if I was sick. She's like, if you're not dying, you're getting on the bus, go to school.
Wow. So no wonder you're consistent today.
Absolutely. So everything I've seen and success in my life I started to look back. You always look back on, how did I get here? What did I do? How did I achieve this? It's all about consistency, and that's a main word for me. And it really sticks with me because a lot of times I'll bet there's even someone that's watching this or listening to this that's hearing that and going, yeah, I got that. I got consistency. Yeah, I get that. But the fact is, very few people have consistency. Very, very few people. If I were to put a number on it, I would say less than 5% of people have actual consistency, because we take that as a fundamental word that we hear our entire lives and we go, yeah, we got that. But you never sit there and dissect, what does that actually mean? What does it mean to be consistent? Nowadays with speakers, authors, coaches, whether they're building personal brands online, or whether you're typing out your next manuscript or planning your next speech or putting yourself out there to get more gigs, if you don't have the consistency, you're going to get passed severely by those that do have the consistency. And to give you an example of consistency, social media, personal branding, if you are out there trying to market your book or your product, your speech or your coaching program, and you're not actively doing this every single day, you're not consistent. And that's going to sting. Some people are going to be listening to this and be like, wow, I only make 3 videos a week, or I make one post every other day on social media. Well, you are not consistent. You are not defining consistency, because the other extreme is guys like Gary Vee, who's making like 10 videos a day on every single platform. And I get it. He's got a full production team. That is not realistic for people like Jake and I. But I can go create a single post every single day on the platforms that I'm active on. I can create videos. I can add value. I can respond to posts within the people in my group. I can invite people to go do different things. I can challenge people. These are the things you have to do every single day. You need to be the very first person that they think about when they need your services or your product or your advice. And if you're not doing that, you are not consistent. That's the hard truth.
Mm. This is a common complaint that I hear from members of the Speakers, Authors, and Coaches Network is I love what I do. I love sharing the message. I love speaking. I love coaching. But some of them will say, I love that, but I hate being on social media. And what I think what they mean by that is they hate doing it all the time. They hate whatever that is. It's something that's become very heavy to them. It's something that's become just something that feels like a nuisance. What would you say to them? What would you say if someone told you that? Hey, I love what I do, teaching, speaking, writing, but I don't like that. I don't like the day-to-day. I don't like the consistency on the social media.
I think it has to be reframed. I think if your perception of social media is that it's a chore or it's something that is taking a lot of my wasting time on social media, then you're not utilizing it properly, because social media, especially LinkedIn nowadays and Facebook, even Instagram, those things are the most powerful marketing tools that are available. And you know what? They're free. So let's think about this an analogy story. Let us say that you're struggling with your business, or maybe you're not where you want to be in your business right now. Let's say that there's a knock at your door and somebody presents you a magic wand and they said, hey, I'm going to give you this free magic wand. And if you just wave it over your business, all this money is going to start coming in. You're going to start to build your brand and people are going to recognize you. You're going to be very successful if you just use this magic wand. Well, you know what? We walk around every single day with that magic wand in our back pocket or our purse, and it's called your cell phone. And if you're not using it properly, if you don't have the mindset to think that social media is important, then you are not going to do what it takes to get to the level that you want. That's the honest truth. If you see other coaches, other speakers, other authors out there killing it on social media, and you're thinking, why do they have everything but I don't? It's because they're doing the things that you're unwilling to do. So when you reframe social media as your duty rather than your hobby, you're going to have a lot different results.
Totally. One thing I think about, and I've been sharing with them, is this is the most amazing gift that we've been given. I mean, it is a gift to entrepreneurs. I would not be doing what I'm doing today if it wasn't for the internet, for social media. This is the most powerful and the cheapest tool to get in front of people literally in human history. And yet we're complaining about it's annoying, or it's too much this or too much that. And I always invite people to reframe it. So just like you said, reframe this in their minds and say, look, you love what you do, but this is the best, the easiest, the cheapest, and the most effective way to get to do more of what you love. And that's really what it comes down to, that there's no more powerful way and no cheaper way than just getting out your dang phone and talking. I mean, it's incredible what we're able to do. I did an interview with Jack Canfield a couple weeks ago. It aired on last week's episode. And he talked about how, you guys are so lucky that you have this, because I didn't have this when we started out. To get in front of these people, it cost a lot of money. It cost a lot of money to get in front of people. And it's so important that we use it. And I think we just need to look at it as a gift rather than as something, like you said, as a chore.
Yeah, it's so true. Exactly what Jack said. The first company I built scaled to 300,000 users, and that was pre-social. So we had to do a lot of cold calling and cold emailing to get the people's. We started to provide value in the magazines, automotive magazines, to attract people to come back to the website. We had to go create events, racing events all around the country to build those small micro communities that would feed back into our major community online. So understand that we had a lot more foot traffic, a lot more expense, a lot more effort to go do the things to get the results that we had. Nowadays, I can fire up a live video and reach thousands of people. Are you kidding me? But let's talk about the time factor of that, Jake, because a lot of people think like, you know what, I'll do that someday. I'll come back to that. I'll start doing live videos. I'll start creating videos. I'm committed to do that, but just not right now. They're waiting for this magical moment, or maybe their self-confidence isn't good enough, or maybe they're thinking that, the right time will just become better. But the problem is they're going to miss the boat.
Yep.
Because here's the thing, guys, if you're doing these live videos on Facebook, they're wanting you to do that because they want people to become addicted to using that content to see the results. Just like 5 years ago on business pages, you could create a business page. It was basically your website, and you can make a post and you get all these people that liked it and people would respond to it. And you're like, oh, this is awesome. It's like a web page without a web page. And then now what is it like nowadays? It's like a ghost town unless you open up your wallet and spend money to reach the people who have already agreed to pay you, or not to pay you, but to follow you. Like, you could have thousands of followers. There's people out there with millions of followers on their business page that get less than 1%. I think it's like 0.3%
Yep.
organic reach unless they spend money. So do you think that something so powerful like live videos is going to be free forever? No, it's not going to be free forever. I can forecast the future. They want you to use it. They see these awesome results. Someday you're going to go push the live button on your phone, and it's going to say, how many people would you like to reach? How much would you like to spend? So if you're not using it right now while it's free, while there's still a lot of organic reach, you're not doing your job. You're not doing your job of building your personal brand. That's the hard truth, guys.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important too to look at this and remember that, so like you're saying, things pass by, time passes, and things change. We look at the past, and sometimes I go, oh man, if I would have started this at that time, then look what would have happened by now. If I would have done this. And it's easy to feel like, oh shoot, I already missed the boat. But there's that beautiful, wonderful old saying, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time to plant a tree is today. And some of these things, they will pass. Yeah, that's true. Some of these things have already passed, but there's still so much opportunity. And the time to jump in is now. Just jump in and start doing it. And who cares if you're perfect? Who cares? You don't need to be perfect. Who cares if you're not perfect? It does not matter. And I'll tell you this, I I don't even know how many of it is now. I've probably done more than 500 live videos. And I remember the first time I did a live video, and as funny as this sounds, it was after I had already done hundreds and hundreds of presentations in front of live people. Also, I had done many, many videos as well in front of a camera. But the idea of pushing live scared me to death. I was completely nervous. I was afraid of it. I had been speaking for my full-time living for years at this point, and I was nervous to push that live button. And I don't think I was really all that great at it when it first started. And it just took time. The best way to get better at speaking is stage time. The best time to get better at doing live video is live video. We have to do these things. So just jump in.
That's huge. I would say the exact same thing. That live button scared me for months, even though I knew the power of it, and I saw other people experimenting with it. I was like, oh man, that's really putting yourself out there. That's being vulnerable. And you and I are like, we were basically standing in front of audiences and doing things like that, and we felt comfortable in that. But the live video is almost like speaking to an electronic device. That's the weird part. Speaking to an electronic device, you have to become familiar with the way that feels. It's just like weird looking at a lens without somebody else
Yeah.
holding the phone. If someone's actually holding the phone and filming you, to me, that's actually easier to speak to the phone because you're actually speaking to that person somewhat. You can imagine that. But holding the phone out or putting it on a tripod and just speaking to a lens and not seeing the reaction, because as a professional speaker like yourself, Jake, we gauge the crowd. We
Yep.
like to see the reaction. We listen for the laughter. We have punchlines. And you know what? Punchlines don't really work when you're speaking to a lens. You're like, might have been a good joke, might have been bad. Don't know. I guess we'll watch the replays or see if anyone responds on the live feed, right?
Yeah.
So it's all these different things that you worry about. But and then again, it goes back to what you're talking about. We just have these self-limiting beliefs. We're overly critical of ourselves, and we focus too much on what other people might think or what they potentially might think rather than thinking about our message. And that was the hardest part for me to really come out, because the things I've been doing, the 365 driven, the coaching, the podcast, all these things that people see now that I'm operating at this high level, it's less than 2 years. Like I started in June of 2017, and it
Mm.
looks like I've been doing it a very long time because I am consistent. I will show up every single day. So if you were to put our efforts of people who've been out there 5 years, 6, 7, 8 years, maybe I have created that amount of value in a shorter amount of time because of consistency. So again, when you talked about, like, you see other people doing it, people are seeing like yourself or myself with these groups that are growing, we're launching these shows, growing this audience. They're like, oh man, these guys are doing great. I don't think I could do that. Well, that was me 2 years ago, until I decided, you know what? exactly, like I'm planting this tree today, Jake. I'm just going to go and do it, and I'm going to see this through. And I'll tell you that first 6 months is actually the hardest part.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And tell us why. Why would you say the first 6 months was the hardest part?
The first 6 months of anything that you're doing, especially if that's self improvement or creating a new business or maybe putting yourself out there and doing videos, the thing is that your audience, even your best friends, even your family members are skeptics. We're human beings. We're skeptics by nature. We're used to seeing people do this flash in the pan thing where I got this new MLM thing, or I'm doing this new business, and they go really hard for about a month.
Yeah.
And they're not getting the traction that they think they're entitled to. That's the key. Most people think they're entitled to some kind of reaction, or they're entitled to an audience because they've got a friends list of 1,000 people and like, oh, these people are all going to support me. I'll tell you, that's absolutely not true from
Yeah.
experience. But the thing is people are watching what you do, but they don't engage. They don't like your stuff. They don't share it. They don't really respond. Maybe your Aunt Betty and maybe your very, very, very best friend, or maybe your sister responds to each and every post. And you're like, oh man, this kind of sucks. Like I see Jake make a post and Tony make a post and hundreds of people respond like, better looking than those guys. And I sound better. And like, I don't know why I can't even get the same attention. Like this is not working for me. And that's the things that we start to tell ourselves. I experienced that. I'm sure you experienced that as well, Jake. But the thing is people are watching. But the thing is we're counting on you to fail because we're skeptics, because we've seen literally thousands of other people before you have done the exact same shit and they didn't get to the results because they quit too soon. Now, when you start to get into that 4-month, 5-month phrase, they're starting to raise their eyebrow a little bit. Maybe this person is consistent. I'm going to watch a little bit more before I start to show them some of my energy, my love. I'm just going to ride this out a little bit. 6 months, they're starting to throw you a like here and there. Hey, this guy's showing up every day. This lady, she's showing up every day. She's smiling. I guess she is consistent. They're going to start responding to your posts. A year in, if you can really start to do this a year in, that's when you really start to see results. Because now they go, even the people who doubted you at first, even the people who were hoping you would fail, they were like, wow, Jake, Tony, they're really consistent. They're showing up every single day. They're serious about this. So I'm going to start to support them now because you've earned their trust, you've earned their support, and now they're willing to contribute their energy into your effort. And until you get to that 6-month window, you're going to feel like you're talking to an empty room, an empty microphone. Nobody's going to be watching your videos, but that's the test. That is the test. If you can't make it through that test, you don't deserve the results. And that hurts when you hear that, but you do not deserve the results. You're not entitled to anything in this world, but you got to see it through.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Especially that idea of, look, it's going to take time. And if you just stick with it, great things are going to happen, but the results don't come right away. They take time. And so at the beginning, I hear that all the time. I've been doing this. And it's like, how long have you been doing it? 3 weeks. And I haven't got a paid client yet. And you're like, okay, look, my brother-in-law just finished medical school and he still has another, 3 years of training before he's an actual medical doctor. And we're talking about an industry where the potential earning is absolutely the same as those professional, but much further because there's no ceiling. There's no ceiling in that. But when we're talking about something that has professional earning potential, and then obviously the potential is much higher as well. But when we're talking about something that has the potential to make that kind of money, why do we not have the same idea that, look, here's someone who's gone to school for over a decade for this before you get the return. And now you're not willing to wait 6 months to get a return. You're not willing to invest a couple $1,000s into some training when, they're sitting out there with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And I just look at things the same way. When I came out of college, my first thought process was, okay, I got this friend who's going to this graduate program. This guy's getting a master's degree. This friend's going to law school. This friend's going to medical school. I'm not doing one of those things, but I don't have the audacity to think that I'm going to immediately go into that professional level of earning and that professional level of influence. I had the mindset of, okay, I'm going to graduate school. It's going to be my own graduate school because there's no formal education program that offers what I'm looking for. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to get the education from all the different people. I'm going to put the work in. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get by because I know that it's going to pay off in the long run. And, fortunately it did. It absolutely did. And it's because I was willing to do that. And that was my mindset was, oh, I'm in graduate school. This is just how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I call this aggressively patient. You have to be very aggressive in your actions every day, but you have to be patient for the results. And you nailed it exactly, man. Think about even in the corporate world, most people never even crest $100,000 in their salary. They'll work 40 years,
Yeah.
sometimes with degrees, and they'll never make $100,000. Even with the people with the good degrees, let's talk about engineers. Like I'm a mechanical engineer. It still takes most engineers coming out of college 5 to 7 years nowadays to crest 100,000. So you got 4 to 5 years of college, 5 to 7 years of work experience, and finally they're going to get a six-figure paycheck, right?
Yep.
If you want $200,000 in oil and gas engineering, that's going to be 20, 25 years working to get to that.
Yeah.
Doctors will be making it when they're late 40s. They'll be making multiple six figures. And that's assuming they don't have a bunch of student loans to pay down. So they're really living like a $90,000 a year person because they got all these bills to pay. Understand that exactly what you said, Jake. You have to be able to put your realistic expectations into the finances that you want. Now, have some people done it a lot faster? Absolutely. But we can't base our experiences or our expectations on the outliers. There's always going to be superstars in any single thing. I mean, there's people that go to the NBA drafted out of high school to play basketball. So there's outliers and then there's the norm. So if you're not willing to commit or invest, and I like that one you talked about is investing in coaching or programs to learn things. Like if you're not willing to invest that same amount of things or vote or go work for free from someone that can teach you things, you can volunteer, and it blows people's mind. That's a discussion we could actually have because one of the people I know were like, I suggested, hey, you don't have a lot of money, so why don't you go volunteer your skills and your services to help an influencer, someone that can teach you that has more experience than you, just to like trade, like be their coach. They could be your mentor or coach, and you can do these services that you do have skills in. And they're like, oh, well, I don't want to work for free. I'm like, it's like, I was like, that person's time per hour, probably $500 to $1,000 per hour is what they would charge. You think that you're working for free if you're learning the knowledge or being in the proximity of those people that can elevate your career or your trajectory in your career. And I had to think about this. Like most people are willing to go spend six figures to get a college degree. Sometimes they get out of college and they get this worthless degree that can't even give them a job. And back when I was managing restaurants, I would have to hire them as a waiter and they would work there for years with a degree. You're willing to go spend $100,000 to get a degree in 4 years of your time, but you're not willing to go invest $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 to go learn from somebody that can actually do something for you and make you have a creative business that's going to generate that kind of money. So it blows my mind how there's this dichotomy. There's this connect of people wanting to spend money, but they won't work for free. Like, you know what, if Gary Vee called me up and he's like, hey man, you're doing this thing that's really well. Can you come work with me for a year? I'd be like, yeah, I'll be there. I'll go work for free. I'll go work for Gary for free. As long as I get some camera time, proximity to what he's doing, I'm able to build my brand, showcase my talents. Yeah, I'll go stand on his stage. You kidding me? Like that's the kind of thing people don't really have that vision.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important for us to get in proximity of people who have been doing things. I was talking to my brother-in-law this past weekend. I was in Utah for the Influencers Mastermind Intensive. After it was over, I stopped by and visited with my brother-in-law. And he was saying, what is it over the last, 2 years? Like, what is it that has had this huge trajectory for you? I'd been making a living speaking for years before that, but over the last 2 years, there's just been this hockey stick that's gone up. And there was a couple things about it. There's a few different elements that have made that happen. But I think the biggest one has been my willingness to invest, to be around people who have done what I want to do. That's been the biggest thing has been, I don't care how much it costs. I don't care what time it costs. I don't care where I need to fly to. I don't care. I'll fly anywhere to meet with that person. I'll go anywhere to go to this event or to meet these types of people, just to be around them. And people discredit the value of being around people who are doing the things that you want to do.
Absolutely. And, you and I both run very successful Facebook groups that are very, organic traffic driven. There's a lot of interaction, a lot of community. And here's the thing is I see a lot of people not taking advantage of that opportunity on their own. There's definite ways to build your personal brand by being a contributor of value in each of our groups. And I
Yep.
see so many people missing that opportunity. So many people just sit on the sidelines and watch other people post and make videos. And I'm not telling you to go spam our groups. That's not what this is. Like, if you want to go build your personal brand, I invite you to mine too. It's 365 Driven Entrepreneurs. Jake and I, we share members all the time. This is the thing that you can be doing in both groups is just creating value. And I'm not talking about making one piece of content and copy pasting in a bunch of groups, because anyone that's in both groups will be like, that person's just spamming. So go in and make genuine videos, like contribute to that group. If you're in a speakers, authors, coaches book group, like talk about books, talk about book marketing, talk about speaking advice, do something like that relevant to the group. Go to mine, talk about entrepreneurship, business mindset, things that you've learned, things that you've failed at, things like that. So create some personal branding so people can see your face, how you sound, the message that you're carrying. And I'll tell you what, they're going to start following you, and they're going to do the Facebook creeping thing. Let's be honest, we all do that. We look at your profile, we go, what does this person do? Oh, they do this. They offer this service, this product. And they go, cool, I like this person. So next time I need that service or that product, I'm going to go hit them up. Or if someone asks for a referral, I'm going to go refer to that person. That is the beauty of social media. Create value. Just do that and quit asking about stuff. Quit telling people to come visit your website and all this stuff. That's not how it works. Just create value. It's so simple nowadays.
Totally. The more we just show up, the more we show up and give real value, the more comes back to us. It's really simple, and it's not very complicated. Why do you think that people overcomplicate things?
They're watching too much of what other people are doing wrong. I mean, that's
Interesting.
the simple answer. There's literally thousands of people, probably the people they follow are doing things wrong. And they're like, well, this is the way everybody's doing it. So I guess I should do it too. It's no different than we have this old style of marketing. We have the billboard mentality. Most times we drive, we don't notice billboards anymore. I don't, unless there's some awesome, super awesome billboard that really grabs me. I don't ever remember any billboards that I see when I'm driving on the highways. And I think most listeners would agree with that, because that's the old fashioned way of marketing. Just putting crap out there and just making, like you sticking in their face, here's our product, our product, our product. And it's just, that's annoying and people don't like that. And that's not how social media works. So people think that they have this marketing idea. They grew up with it. They've seen decades of commercials, like products sticking in their face. So they think that, hey, I've got this product or service. I need to go stick it in people's face. And that's just how the pros are doing it on TV. And that's how the magazines do it with their ads. And that doesn't work on social media. Most people haven't figured that out, but the people who do, they're the ones creating video, creating impact, engaging their audience, being grateful for the interactions that they receive rather than just making a post and not responding to any post. That's like the worst thing most people do, I think, is they'll make a post and then they won't respond or take a second to like respond back to the people who engage. It's like, that's not being grateful of your audience. You got to take care of the people who do support you and quit trying so hard to get the new audience.
Talk a little more about that. You just said a real gem right there. Stop trying so hard to get the new audience and start taking care of the audience you have, or being grateful for the audience you have. So what advice do you have for people who want to take care of that audience they currently have, or be grateful for that audience they currently have?
Simple as this. It's just engage. If people are willing to respond or throw a like throw a like back. Like if they want to give a paragraph of sharing a story, tell them like, hey, that was an awesome story. Thank you for sharing that. You got to acknowledge people. Things I learned in the restaurant industry. So I worked, I guess, about 10 years in the restaurant industry from age 15 to 25 when I was working in the restaurants, going to college and things. But one of the main complaints, customer service, one of the main complaints that restaurants have is lack of acknowledgement within a certain time. So if someone seats you at a table, and I know you'll agree, let's say that you go to a new restaurant and the hostess seats you at a table and you sit there for 5 minutes or more and like nobody's greeted you, no one's taking your drink order, you're starting to get pissed. You're like, this is kind of crappy. So we knew that within 2 minutes, if you did not greet or acknowledge them, that changed their entire perspective of the entire meal. Like they could have an amazing meal after that point of just feeling that, and it's not going to be the same impact. So when you start to think about that first 2 minutes, so if you're going to make a social media post, at least reserve 10 minutes behind that to engage people immediately. Those initial ones that engage, like engage them. You're going to get responses over the course of the day and you can't respond to all of them. You got to go focus on the things you do, but always reserve 10 to 15 minutes after you create a good post to engage the audience and just respect. And then other people will start to witness that. Hey, every time Tony makes a post, he actually just takes the time to respond to every response, thanks people, throws some hearts. They're like, okay, that's going to compel them to engage next time they see your post. Like, I like this guy. He's always engaging. I'm gonna jump in next time and have a conversation when he creates something I want to talk about. So that's the thing, is like, you start to do this. There's always observers. There's those people that have just come across your feed. There's people who discover you every single day. They see this, they witness this, they see how the people are treating you. You're giving people respect. They're giving you respect back. Those are the people we want to follow. Let's be honest, man.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. People love that when you're connecting with them, when you're there. Let's talk about the logistics of that though. Because I think that there are some people listening right now are like, yes, I want to do that and I'm going to do that more. Then there's some people listening and it's not so much a limiting belief. It's they're trying to actually figure out the logistics of it when there's only so much time. You know, time is one of those things that's finite. So how do you personally manage your time to be able to handle those things, to be able to stay engaged, to be able to get on those places? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think lack of time is an excuse. That's always, it's a priority thing. I think
Mm-hmm.
here, let's unwind some of these funny things that you would never hear. Like, these would be absurd statements. It's my priority to be obese. It's
Mm.
my priority to have weak relationships. It's my priority to remain broke. It's my priority to remain with lack of knowledge. Like, these are all absurd. But and most people that would hear that, or if you saw that in writing, you'd be like, what is this stuff? But that is exactly what you're saying indirectly when you do not focus on those things that you should be doing, because you've made them not your priority. Because a lot of people live to blame their spouse or children for the lack of things. But you know what? There's millions of successful people with spouses and children who have done things too. So you can't use those as surface level excuses. That's the kind of stuff. The no time thing is a big one for me, especially as a coach. That is the number one excuse most people bring up, and I'll tell you where that comes from. That's when you hang around with a bunch of people who aspire to be average, and that is what we call a boundary levels question. That when I say, "Hey Jake, can we do this?" and you're like, "I don't have time." Well, if Jake, if you were just another average dude aspiring to be average, you'd be like, "Yeah, man, I get it, I understand." And that's where the conversation would end, because you created a boundary level, surface level excuse. Now, when you say that to someone like Jake or me in reality, we're like, "Oh, you don't have time, huh? Let's dissect your day on an hour to hour basis and see where you are doing things, to see where we can maximize, or maybe remove some distractions in your life, or maybe create some efficiencies here in your life to really focus on what our priorities are." Now, if you said that to someone that's aspiring to be average, they'd be like, "Oh, well, I don't have a schedule." And, they get all defensive. They take a different, energy level from that kind of a questioning. But that's the thing, is most people listen to other people who are aspiring to be average. They're used to hearing this common excuse, "I don't have time," and they adopt that same level of excuse because nobody questions you further. So don't hang around with people like me and Jake if you're going to use that excuse. It doesn't work. So back to the social media thing, is I know that that's important for the personal brand. It's important for the business that I'm building. It's part of my duty. If you were to, just like if you're working in a job right now, you have defined roles and responsibilities. When you apply for a job, you got a bullet list of all these things that they want you to do. And if you don't, you're not going to get paid, or they're not going to give you a good review at the end of the year because you didn't do like 3 of these out of the 10. So if you start to understand that social media posting, or making videos, or writing your blog, or doing a podcast, or writing that book, or booking more speaking events, these are your roles and responsibilities. You're the CEO of yourself. And if you do not execute those as your duty, then you're not doing your job. That's the hard truth. And the not doing your job part, that results in the lack of pay that you're not getting as well.
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. I like the point about the job duties and getting clear on that and saying, okay, what are my job duties?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe someone who is missing that time or doesn't have that time, maybe they're doing things that shouldn't be a part of their job duties. And if they're at a point where they feel like, hey, I'm making money and I'm busy because of this, and that, well, maybe it's time to hire someone else to take over some of those job duties so that you can grow, because there is some reality of there is only so much time. Money is not a finite thing. Time is finite. Money is not. And so then the question is, well, what can you outsource? What can you move to this person? What can you move there? And, it's my experience that connecting with that audience is something that you really can't outsource. That's something that it needs to be you. It needs to be you connecting with them. And look, when it comes down to it, I've had Gary Vaynerchuk respond to me on comments that I've made. And I go, hey, if he's still willing to do it,
Yeah.
then I'm pretty sure that I'm not busier than him.
Pretty safe bet. Pretty safe.
Pretty safe bet, but he still prioritizes it.
Yeah, but let's talk about that because it's real scary for people to hire other people.
Yeah.
And that was a struggle I had in my first company until I had 75 freelancers building websites and doing all things for me. I just farmed it all out and I got paid off of their time. So time, your personal time, our physical time on this earth, yeah, we all get 24 hours a day, but we're able to scale immensely our productivity time and multiply that by using other people's time or farming things out. So a lot of times, here's another thing we talked about, the self-limiting belief of the no time. Well, another self-limiting belief that most people carry is they think that if you can do it yourself, don't pay somebody to do it.
Yeah.
So you got millionaires out there mowing their damn yard where they could be paying somebody $8 an hour to mow their yard, right?
Yep.
I haven't mowed a yard in 20 years. I'll wave at my mower it's like, I'll be in here doing this, getting paid the hourly rate equivalent of what I should be working on. And that's a good exercise we could talk about because a lot of times people flood their calendars with all these things that are below their pay grade. They should be firing themselves really to hire someone else like a VA or a part-time somebody or a freelancer to do these things that people are doing that they don't even enjoy. They're pay somebody to do that. That way you can focus on the productivity of things that you enjoy. Maybe it's your social media. I would love to just be able to make videos all day and do public speaking events and podcasts like all day long and not do anything else. That would be pretty awesome, wouldn't it? I mean, come on, but there's still business on the back end. I'm running 3 different companies. So you got to be able to farm those things out to get the people, and you got to be able to trust the people that you're farming it out. I'm not saying like trust them, like you got to trust other people to do the things better than you, because you're going to find that a lot of people are highly intelligent. They can actually do things better than you if you just get off the micromanagement thing and give them a shot. So I see a lot of people hiring people, but they're still dictating like, do this, do this, do this, do this. Like, you know what, create a process for them to follow. And you might actually be surprised. They may actually come with something better than you just pointing all the finger. Like, so don't think that it's going to be this overwhelm. Like I got to hire people and then I got to be the puppet master and telling them all what to do. Is like, no, hire people and then trust them to do their job. Give them those defined roles and responsibilities. And that's how you measure them. If they can't do the roles and responsibilities, then you fire them. It's just like at your normal corporate job. So define the processes, define the systems, the roles and responsibilities, and then let them execute. If they don't, you just get rid of them. You hire other people. You got to hire slow and fire fast. It's so true. It's just, that's the way we get treated in the corporate world. And it's not personal, it's business. But think about the things that you're wasting time with, and you can rank those. So one of the things I help my coaching clients with is I rank we go through their daily calendar, like hour by hour. What are the tasks that they do on a daily basis, like their routine? And you start to identify things that are administrative. You'll identify some of the tasks that we call technician level, something like a little bit skilled. You'll find some things that are manager level, and you'll find things that are CEO and executive level. Well, as a business owner, you should only be doing manager stuff and CEO stuff. All the administrative and technician stuff should be farmed out because the hourly rate for those is substantially less. They could be more productive hiring that stuff out, and you can focus on the things that you should be at your hourly rate. So if that's creative or doing the content or the speaking events or the one-on-one coaching and the high-level masterminds, these are the things that we should be focused on and not doing administrative stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that idea of you mentioned the lawyer who's mowing their lawn, and if mowing your lawn isn't also your hobby, which I don't well, those ride-on ones can be pretty cool. But if it's not something you love, then it should be someone else doing it. And I think that idea of, if you know how to do something, then don't pay someone to do it. I think that idea comes from something you talk about a lot is the employee mindset. Comes from the employee mindset. And if you are an employee, then you look at the things that you have. Money is the finite variable. That's the fixed variable, where time is the thing that, yes, it's still fixed, but you have more of it. And so
Yes.
people do that. Most of us grow up in an environment where we grew up, the money was the fixed variable, and the time was not. The time was
Hmm.
the one that could move. And so I think that's where it comes from. But we have to understand, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as people who create our income. It's not something I tell my friends this quite often, because I work really hard to stay at my peak level of energy, my peak level of mental and emotional wellness. Um, and in doing that, I consider that a part of my work. And I consider it a part of my work because just like a professional athlete who is
Hmm.
paid by the result, an entrepreneur is paid by their results. It's not about showing up. I don't get paid just because I show up in this office. I have to actually produce. I have to actually show up and be at my peak potential. And so I think that anyone who is an entrepreneur needs to realize that you must put yourself as a priority. You must put your energy as a priority. You must put whatever it takes for you to be at that peak potential. And you can create more income. You can create more income to pay for those things.
Hmm.
You can spend your time a lot wiser than mowing your lawn, because you can pay someone a very low amount relatively to mow that lawn, and you can use that hour to do something that's actually going to move the needle. Or for you, it might be better to use that hour of mowing the lawn going to the gym or doing something that's going to help you to produce better the next day.
I mean, there's so many coaches and authors and speakers out there. If you're to A lot of people don't realize what their hourly value is. It's a simple exercise. Look at the hours that you put into something and divide it by what you get paid, and then you'll find out what your equivalent hourly rate is. You could even do that as a salary job. Divide it by what 2,200 hours a year, and that's how they calculate their salary. Like there's a lot of people walking around with a salary job thinking that they're better than an hourly person, but it's really based on a 40-hour work week. So you can divide it, find out what your hourly rate is, and then you start to go realize that you know what I why am I I'm a coach and I make $100 to $500 an hour, whatever your rate is. Like, why am I doing something that I could pay some like $7 an hour, or a VA like $5 an hour that can do the exact same thing? Like, I should be focused
Mhm.
on things that scale this company. Maybe I need three VAs that can farm this stuff. They can go through my inbox for me and tell me which ones are critical. The other ones they can just trash or give simple responses back. So there's a lot of things that people need to figure out how to just get off their plate, and that gets you the time, that excuse you. Because I'm running three companies and I still have a lot of time. I don't feel like I'm operating 100%, but that's kind of by design. I don't believe in the hustle and grind and work 24 hours a day and like kill yourself. I've done that. I did that in my 20s, and it's not good. I personally like to make money while I sleep. I like to make money while I'm on vacation. I like to make money anytime. Like time is not has nothing to do with money. When I hear that time is money, that's another self-limiting belief. It's the mantra of the middle class. Time is money, money is time, time. It's like you got to go trade your hours for dollars. No, that's not the way it is nowadays. It's You can actually make money on online businesses, get paid while you're sitting in the commode surfing Instagram. Like there's so many ways to make money. It's like quit thinking that you got to show up somewhere and trade your hours for dollars. Such a limiting belief. And when people discover that, they're like, "Wow, you're right." You're like, "Yeah." I was sitting at a dinner probably about a year ago. We were at a dinner and somebody was asking about online businesses, and they said, they did a little sneer because they're employed, like, "Can you really make money at that?" I was like, "Oh, let me see. Let me see if we made money during this dinner." And I opened up my PayPal and I showed them. I was like, "I just made $6,000 while we're sitting here." See the timestamps? You see the timestamps? And they're like, "No way, really?" I'm like, "Yeah." So yeah, you can make money without having to show up, and you can do these things with the online businesses. I like to coach. It's something that I have a lot of passion for. I could definitely go back full auto and just run businesses to make money passively, but then I'm bored, man. I like to do this stuff. So I enjoy making the videos. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy encouraging. I love these podcasts. I love having conversations with amazing people. That's the quick thing about podcasts is most people don't realize the power of the networking and the communications and the things you can learn and the amount of people that you can come across by having your own podcast. I think
Yep.
it's a missed opportunity if you don't have one, to be honest.
Totally, I agree. Tell us about the other businesses you run. I actually don't know the other businesses that you run. I'd love to hear that.
So Deviate Motoring is an online high-end wheels for custom wheels because I'm a car guy. I've always
And
built
you've had
business
that one for a while, right?
for about 12 years.
Okay.
So I spent $0 on marketing and it brings in about 800,000 a year.
Wow, that's
And that's
incredible.
revenue number, but it's still a pretty good margin because I'm distributor level on a lot of those brands. So I got basically virtual salespeople, if you think about it, because I've trained all these other performance shops and dealerships to be my sales guys. Essentially,
Mhm.
I'm the dealer for them. I'm a distributor for them. So they buy them through my company. They basically send in a fill out sheet of spec sheet. Here's the car, here's the year, make, model, here's the wheel we want, here's the finish on those wheels. Like, cool. I just check those for a real quality check. And then I take their money and I send it to the manufacturer. The manufacturer drop ships the product to them in a few weeks. They had to build it. So it's a niche. I get it. There's a lot of different products that I basically spend 15 minutes a day on that company, man. I just answer emails in the morning, answer a few quotes, and then I'm done with the business. So you can make 6 figures a day working 15 minutes a day if you build the right business models, if you start to find your expertise or the niche and build things. And to me, if I'm going to sell things, it makes common sense to sell expensive things. My average ticket in that business is about $5,000 per sale. So I could think about that as like, it takes the same amount of effort for me. I get this even from the restaurants. Like you go work from a cheap restaurant like a Chili's, and the average ticket's like $25. You're making 15 to 20% tips on that low value, and you still worked your ass off. You still ran the same amount of time. You still brought the food. You still took the order. Same amount of work.
Yep.
Same quality of service. Or you can go work at a really high end steakhouse where the average ticket's like $150, and you're making 15 to 20% on that instead for the same amount of work. So if you're going to sell things, don't think about trinkets and cheap things that you got to hand produce. Think about things that can be maybe digital products that scale without any cost of development. Well, development costs, but not manufacturing costs. Or maybe you have something that like just purely like just online that's drop ship. I love drop ship businesses because it's hands off. I don't have to carry inventory. I'm actually, a lot of times they're cash positive. I'm getting paid in advance of products that I don't even own yet. I'm able to use that money to go buy the products and then ship them directly to them. So cash positive business model that I'm not having to spend money. That's amazing. It's just like, there's so many ideas out there to do that, but most people don't really think about that. They don't think it's reality.
Yeah. So what are the other, you said one, what are the other two?
So the other one is the 365 driven. That's the
Yeah.
coaching
Yep.
podcast, the things like that. And the other one, we're doing a startup for a carbon fiber composites for manufacturing for automotive wheels. We're being funded by the Canadian government, multiple 6 figures, already doing the research and development. We're on prototype number 2, and we're hoping to get production in January of 2020. So we're building that company to flip. I want to build that company to 40, $50 million and sell it. So that's what we're purpose. I got one partner in that. He's a professor in Vancouver. So these are the things that most people don't even know I'm doing. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm so
Yeah.
active on social media, but most people think, hey, he's just a business coach or an author. Like, yeah, I got other things that I'm doing too. So there goes that whole like, don't have time thing, right? I
Well,
have
and that,
time.
yeah, and this brings us into where I wanted to talk about next was your book, The Side Hustle Millionaire. And you created a business that you sold for, I know it was over $1 million. I can't remember the exact amount, uh, that you did on the side when you had a job. So tell us about the concept of the Side Hustle Millionaire and also about the book, The Side Hustle Millionaire.
So the book itself it was a basis of, I would say that I did I asked the audience what they wanted. So when you're going to build a product or anything, you got to build something that people want. That's the number one critical thing, right? A lot of times people think they got this idea, they don't evaluate it. I had a pretty active social media audience that said, hey guys, I'm going to write a book, knowing generally what I wanted to do. It's going to be
Yeah.
about business. I love business and cars. So I'm going to write a book. What would you like to learn from me? And they go, man, you've done so many things with business. I want you to like teach us about business. It's like, okay, this is before I even was a coach. It's like, okay, I'm gonna write a book about business. I said, if I was going to write a book about business, what questions would you like answered? And then it had probably 50 people respond, and you start to see the pattern of these same questions being asked over and over. And I said, okay. So as a marketer, as someone that builds products and things like that, okay, I've got my market analyses done. If I can answer all these questions in a book, I'll have a pretty damn good book because that's what they want. It's like, okay. A lot of them were a lot simpler answers than I actually thought. I was coming at I'm going to write this book about mid-tier businesses and share like how to make millions and scale and exit. Like I was really more in an advanced mindset, but
Yep.
my audience wanted to learn the simple things. And it really opened up my eyes. Like my awareness was like, wow, I assumed a lot of these people knew these things, but I guess they don't. So I need to just write what they want. So I wrote that book. And Side Hustle Millionaire is basically how to take your idea for your businesses for busy professionals, people who don't have time,
Hmm.
and think about how to evaluate those ideas to get you to the best opportunities of your financial or your time goals or both. And then we start to understand how we set that up. So I want you to take your idea and get it into operation with that book, Side
Mm.
Hustle Millionaire. And a lot of people, like you said, the title itself, it grabs attention because you know what? I did some market analyses on other side hustle books before I wrote it. It's like, okay, this is what people want. This is what I'm an expert at. Let me go read these other books. And there's like 3 or 4 out there that are doing pretty well. And I bought those and it's like, oh man, maybe I'll learn something. I got excited because I like books. I started reading them and I was shaking my head when I was reading these books. I'm like, oh man, oh, come on, man. Like you're teaching people that, like, oh man. Because Jake, I was disappointed with the side hustle community because they think too damn small.
Mm.
Side hustle to a lot of people thinks go get a second job, go get a third job, go drive for Uber, go pick up shifts at the restaurant, go be the greeter at your grocery store with your other job. So I'm thinking like I did all that in my 20s. I get it. I had to do what I needed to do to make money, but that's not a business. That's not doing
Not at
things.
all.
That's not thinking. That's going back to trading your hours, your time for dollars. That's employee mindset. And that's what these books are written about. They're talking about building arts and crafts that consume a lot of hours of your time after work, like build these trinkets and gizmos and whatever, and selling them on Shopify. And I'm thinking, man, there's just a lot easier ways to make money. Like, why you
Yeah.
keep trading your time and like pay someone else to build those trinkets for you? Come on, think a little bit more and just sell what they do. So you scale other people's time. And I was really thinking like, you know, when you read these books, they're like, you can make $300 extra per month. And I'm thinking, I made more than that on one email. Like, what are you talking about? Why are you selling this? And I get it. People like want this realistic expectation, but you know what? It takes the same amount of energy, same amount of effort to build something that can make $30,000 extra per month versus $300 extra a month.
Yeah.
People just don't have that. They don't have that belief. They don't think it's possible. But why would I want to write a book to sell those small dreams when if I can teach you the big thinking and the big dreams, maybe you do hit the small numbers, maybe you do make less, but you're going to be educated and understand what's possible. And to me, that was more important. I gave it that title, and it definitely has done well. Like, well, so nearly 5,000 copies in 1 year.
Nice. Nice. Tell people how they can get their copy.
It's on Amazon. So if you want to learn more about the book, you can go to the website at sidehustlebook.net to see the details, but you'll be finding a link on Amazon for there.
Perfect. Sounds good. And how can people connect with you more?
My website is 365driven.com. So 365driven.com. You'll find links to my Instagram, my LinkedIn, all my social medias there, but it's all on one thing. And I've got the podcast 365 Driven, iTunes, Spotify, all the main channels. Come check it out. Hope you guys will.
That's awesome. I would suggest everyone go and check it out. Everyone become a part of his group, listen to his podcast. He has a very professional production. That is something that I would suggest everyone goes and checks out. And as we close up today, I'd just like to ask you, what's your last words of wisdom for the members of the Speakers, Authors, and Coaches Network?
I would say my last words of wisdom for this episode would be to just do something without worrying about what other people think. I think too many people, even myself included, before I stepped into the spotlight of being a public speaker and things like that, I was so worried about what other people are going to say or what they're going to judge, being vulnerable. You understand that there's going to be people that come out of this woodworks that you thought were your friends are going to be critics or naysayers. And then the beauty of that, you're also going to find people who you maybe you counted out that actually step in to support what you're doing. So there's a positive trade-off, and people will start to show you who they truly are. But that might upset you at first. You might be a little bit emotional about that, but understand that you need to be grateful for when people who show you who they truly are, for good and bad. If they're showing you who they are and they're not supporting you, cut those kind of people out of your life. Get rid of toxic relationships of any kind in your life if you have possible, whether that's family or friends. Create distance and start to gain happiness. You control all the inputs that you go into your eyes or your ears. So who you listen to, who you watch, who you see on your social media feed. If there's things that are causing you negative energy, negative reactions to what they're posting, Even if that's me, just unfollow me, because I don't want you to feel that when you're watching or listening to me. So get rid of those negative sources of energy, and you will have a much, much happier outlook on life.
Love it. I think that's so important. And I've never heard someone say, even if it's me, delete
Even if
me.
it's me, delete me. If I
Love
make you mad, I don't need another hater. I got plenty of those. So you know what? Unfollow.
All right. Thanks so much, Tony. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for listening to the Speakers, Authors, and Coaches podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, subscribe, and most importantly, share it with somebody who needs this information. If you're not already a part of our Facebook community, come and join us in the Speakers, Authors, and Coaches Network at facebook.com/groups/speaker author coach, or simply search the Speakers, Authors, and Coaches Network. Thanks again for listening. Remember, what you do matters. You can turn your dreams into your reality. Together, we are changing the world one message at a time.